everybody, welcome to our third TPGR300 learning event. My name is Mrs. Sidlin Dilly, and along with Ms. Priya Kiston, we are the module coordinators for TPGR300. Last week, Ms. Kiston took you through the teaching practice component of this module and discussed the changes due to the lockdown. Today, we'll deal with the theoretical component of the module. Now, you'll already have some background knowledge on this from your GRT 101 module that you would have completed in your first year. So this module builds on that knowledge. So today we'll look at learners' holistic development, the Grade R daily program and integration, and then we'll look at section B of your portfolio, which is applying this information. And then finally, we'll finish off with a question and answer session. So as we go along, please post any questions you have in the chat. If you have anything to contribute to the activities or things that we'll be discussing, please post those in the chat as well. And it will then become a nice interactive session. All right, Simon, can you see that?
Yes, a big smile.
Right.
Looks good.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, guys, so in grade R, we focus on developing our learners holistically. So let's just have a quick chat about what exactly holistic development is. So it's concerned with the development of the whole child. So we engage all aspects of the learner in our daily interaction, in our daily program, and also in our assessment. So when you think of assessment, you often only think of the cognitive abilities that are being assessed. But in grade R, we look at the child as a whole. Remember that each domain of development impacts the other. So for example, social development is dependent on emotional development, as emotional maturity is required to relate to others and also to build relationships. So the 5 domains of development that we look at in grade R is physical development, moral development, social development, emotional development, and then finally cognitive development. So now let us look at each domain individually. So there are 3 types of physical development. We're going to start off with physical development. The first one is gross motor skills. So these involve movements of the large muscles of the legs, arms, and torso. And children rely on gross motor skills for everyday activities. So children who struggle in this area are children who will have trouble doing whole body movements. For example, climbing, doing jumping jacks, they're very clumsy when they run, things like that. So we encourage the development of these skills through play. And generally in grade R, we try to do everything in a really fun, playful way, hands-on way. And these activities can take place indoors or outdoors. So any activities like running, kicking, throwing balls, bean bags, playing hopscotch, monkey bars, any of those will form part of our gross motor skills development. And you'll notice that it seems as though the children are only playing, but they're very, very important things that are actually happening within their bodies at this point. Now, there are 3 skills that are very important to establish in grade R. And these actually fall under perceptual skills. However, gross motor movements stimulate the development of these skills. So I'm going to discuss these under our gross motor section, but remember they do form part of the perceptual skills. So first of all, we have laterality. Now, laterality has to do with developing an inner sense of the left and right sides of our bodies. So you can see those that little girl and her dad, and they are doing angels in the snow or in the sand, and developing this understanding of the left and the right side of my body. So games like this, games like Simon Says, games like Hopscotch, where you're using your left and your right parts of your bodies, will develop a sense of laterality. Our second skill here is dominance. So this has to do with establishing left or right hand dominance. So we want to have this established by the end of grade R. We don't want them to still be chopping and changing between left and right. So the way that you can sort of reinforce hand dominance is if you present a toy at the midline of the child. So the midline is a line, if you imagine an imaginary line going from the top of your head right down the middle of your body to the bottom. So if you present a toy at the midline, the child will usually use the preferred hand to grasp and manipulate that object, and that reinforces hand dominance acquisition. Our third skill here is crossing the midline. Now, just as we explained, you have that imaginary midline running from the top of your body to the bottom of your body, and crossing the midline has to do with the ability to cross this imaginary line from one side of your body to the other. So, for example, you could touch your left foot with your right hand. You can see in the picture what that little boy is doing. So anything that crosses the midline in your art activities, you'll use a really big piece of paper. So if a child paints, they'll paint from this side of the paper to that side, crossing over the middle of their body, the midline. All right, now these skills are very important because it allows the right and left hemisphere of your brain to work simultaneously. So you're actually creating connections. And as I said to you, I'm going to just repeat this part. These fall under perceptual skills, but we develop these skills by using gross motor movements. Right, our next area of physical development is fine motor skills. So this involves the strengthening and coordination of small muscles in the hands and fingers with the eyes. So children who battle with pencil grip, dressing themselves, picking up and manipulating small objects need support in fine motor skills development. So you can see activities here like threading activities where they need to thread in and out of holes, things like, for example, lacing activities or putting noodles onto straws, anything that involves using your hands, sorting, lacing, Play-Doh, using tweezers. When I used to teach, I'd always ask the lady in the tuck shop to give me those plastic tweezers that you use they use them for those sweet strips. And so she'd collect them for me. And then whenever my children would do things like counting, they'd use these little tweezers and develop these little muscles in your hands and fingers. And you can see then it will impact something like pencil grip well. So a child that battles to grip a pencil correctly needs to develop their fine motor skills. Children that battle to tie their shoelaces or button their jersey need to develop fine motor skills. So you as a teacher will then provide a lot of opportunities for activities like this. Right, and our third type of physical development is the perceptual skills one, which we mentioned earlier. So in the perceptual skills, children learn about the world around them by using their senses and relating this information to what they already know. So the development of perceptual skills is very important, and it lays the foundation for emergent reading, writing, and spelling skills. So you can see here that physical development is very important for cognitive development and skills in other areas at a later stage. So often if a child is having a problem with reading or emergent reading, we might have to go back to physical development and look at developing these skills even better. So I'm going to look now at two very important perceptual skills that need to be developed here. So first of all, it's visual perception. Now this is all about the child understanding and making sense of what they have seen. So two important skills here are visual discrimination and visual memory. Now, visual discrimination has to do with identifying differences and similarities in what you are seeing. So those games where you have two pictures and it's spot the difference. The children have to identify what is different about this picture to the other. That will develop visual discrimination. Your visual memory is about remembering what you've seen. So, for example, you can play those memory card games where the pictures, the cards are all facing down and you turn over a picture. For example, it's a picture of a crab and you need to turn over another card and find the picture of the crab. And then you need to remember where those cards have been placed. So if you think about this relating to formal schoolwork, why would you need to discriminate visually between different things that you've seen? Now, for example, when you're learning about handwriting, you will need to discriminate with the B and the D, which one faces the right direction. Now, if your visual discrimination skills are not well developed, you won't be able to tell the difference between those two. All right, auditory perception is all about making sense of what you've heard. So auditory discrimination is an important skill where the child can discriminate between different sounds. So let's say you play a CD or recording with different farm animal sounds. The child would then have to discriminate between which one is the cow, which one is the chicken. Auditory memory skills then are important for a child to remember what they've heard. So a big one for this is following instructions. So if a child cannot follow instructions, you need to then practice this. So for parents, you'd then say, give your child one instruction and let them follow it. So go to your bedroom. Then when they can do that, then give them two instructions. Go to the bedroom and bring mommy a pillow. And then 3 instructions and 4 instructions. And so their auditory memory skills will become better and better. Right, then we move on to moral development. Now this involves the child understanding right versus wrong. So here we expect children to have good manners, follow classroom rules, and have an appreciation and respect for others. So a lovely way to encourage care and respect among our learners is by using storybooks. Now there are lovely, lovely, lovely storybooks that encourage moral development and doing the right thing. And you can actually create a whole storytelling or story reading lesson based around that theme. Then we have social development. So this is all about adapting to the rules and behaviors of society, essentially. So especially for young children, though, we focus on how to have healthy relationships with their peers and interact with them in an acceptable way. That's very important. So as a teacher, you'll need to provide opportunities for children to work and play together in order to develop social skills. Remember, you can never underestimate the role of the teacher in all these areas that we're speaking about, your moral, your social, your emotional. You are actually giving them, providing an example for them every day, how to interact with people. How do you speak to your colleagues in front of them? How do you speak to other children? And often children learn most from that, from imitation. Then emotional development. So this is our 4th area of development. And it occurs when a child develops knowledge, understanding, and a positive acceptance of self. This is very important, and teachers can play a large role in this by recognizing children's successes and encouraging them. So emotional development can be enhanced by including activities where children take responsibility and activities where children experience success. So here it's very important for you to understand the developmental level of your children and not provide activities that are too difficult or too easy for them to grasp. So if they have activities that are right on their developmental level, they're able to experience success, this will improve their self-esteem and confidence dramatically. And this has an impact on all of the other domains, as we said before. Right, and finally, we've got cognitive development. So this refers to the intellectual abilities of the learner. So it includes basic mathematics concepts. So here we're talking about, for example, the understanding of more and less, the understanding of the same, the understanding of equal to. So in grade R, we're not necessarily teaching them this is addition and this is subtraction, but we're giving them a problem where we say, Mommy has 2 apples, she buys 2 more apples, how many does she have altogether? So essentially they're learning those concepts and we are laying the foundation for addition and subtraction, and we're developing that concept, but they just haven't really put a name to it yet. We'll develop things like number concept. Now, often parents will say or think that their children are very, very intelligent because they can count to 100. Now, this is very different from having good number concept developed. So the difference is that that's rote counting. They understand the song. They understand 1, 2, 3, 4. They've got really good memory, 21, 22, 23, 24. But number concept has to do with the muchness of the number. Do they understand how much 5 is? Do they understand, for example, that I can count to 3 and this is what 3 looks like? So that is what number concept is, having this understanding of the muchness of a number, understanding that 3 is less than 5, but 5 is more than 4, for example. All right, and then the ability to think creatively has to do with problem solving. So we're working on problem solving skills that you're then able to apply to all different situations. We give them lots of opportunities in grade R to solve problems, lots of opportunities to explore and discover and find answers for themselves. Practically, hands-on, they're involved and they really understand this concept that they've now uncovered. Okay, so those are our 5 areas of development. And these are important to understand for the task that we have for you in section B of your portfolio. So we'll get to that at the end, but it will be an application of what we've been through in this section. Now, if we have a look at the Grade R daily program, you'll find this on page 20 of your CAPS document, and it's also explored in depth in your study guide. So there are 3 types of activities that make up our daily program. We have got our structured activities, and we refer to these as teacher-guided activities because the teacher here takes the lead in the activities. These are formal activities, they've been planned, there's an introduction, a body, and a conclusion, and you work according to your planning really in that section. So your learners are involved, but the teacher is taking the lead. Then we've got our routine activities. Now, these involve things like your toilet routine, your greeting in the morning. There's probably a song that you sing or a rhyme that you say. You'll do the weather in the same routine every morning. They'll do packing up. They'll unpack their bags in the morning. Your snack time. All of those things are routine activities. Then we've got our free play activities or our child-initiated activities. You'll see in your study guide, we refer to them as teacher-guided and child-initiated. So here within your day, you have got block periods where the children are allowed free play. So the teacher sets up the different stations, the different areas. It can be indoor, it can be outdoor, and the children then decide where it is that they want to play and what they want to do in those areas. Now again, it seems like it's just play, but our children are learning so much through these areas that we're setting up. So we are setting these areas up intentionally with the concepts, the skills, the knowledge, the development that we want to happen within these different areas. So for example, for outdoor, I've put their water play activities. You can do science activities, like for example, planting a garden, looking after a garden, looking after pets, sensopathic play, so things involving the senses that are very good for development. Inside, you can have your construction area, like your block play area. You've got your reading corner, your emergent literacy area. So there's a large variety, and these have also been explored in depth in your study guide. So you can have a look over there. But what's very important to understand is that our 5 domains of development are happening throughout our daily program. It's not only in the structured activity, the teacher-guided activity. It's happening throughout the daily program. So, for example, if we take something like a free play activity, like water play, for example, and you've got your water tray set up, and your children have got a whole lot of different containers in there that they are measuring things. They're throwing water from one container into the next. They're mixing bubbles in the solution. They're seeing how the color changes. So for example, there, in terms of development, just a water play activity, you're looking at the development of fine motor skills because they're using their little fingers to carry the containers, to pick up the spoons, to pour the jugs. Some people would even say gross motor if they really, pouring big containers or whatever they're doing there. They could be crossing the midline with what they're doing. Then we also have social development because there'll be a lot of friends around the table that are interacting with them. Do they know how to share? Do they know how to speak politely? Is that behavior acceptable? And then something like cognitive development, where you have got, they are developing this concept of measurement, of capacity. They're pouring from one container into another and seeing, is this more than that one? Does this container hold more or less? If I use this container, how many of these cups are going to fill this container up? And they're really developing the concept of measurement and problem-solving skills through an activity like that. So you can see that you can identify many domains of development within one activity. The same goes with our routine activities. This is an absolute learning opportunity where you can teach the children social skills. You can teach them moral skills. You can sing a rhyme while you're doing it and develop their language skills. They can count as they walk to the bathroom and develop these number concepts. So there are many opportunities for learning throughout the daily program that teachers have to identify. All right. So what I wanted to do today was for you to really gain an understanding of the concepts and the domains of development, our 5 domains of development. So what they are, what the children would need to develop in those domains, and how do you support them? What types of activities can you use to support that development? So just on a daily basis, or if a child has a delay in that area, those types of activities are valuable. And then just an understanding of the daily program and how those domains fall into the daily program. Right, now, this knowledge is important for you to know in section B of your portfolio, in the task or the activity that makes up section B of your portfolio. So here we want to develop your observation and assessment skills with the grade R learners. So we want you to apply what you have learned, the theory, in a practical way. So this section you're going to complete during your 4-week teaching practice period. So that period has been reduced. Remember, you've got your formal lessons that you have to teach, you've got your informal lessons that you have to plan, and so you've got a lot of work to do within that 4-week period. And you'll need to have really good time management in order to make time for this observation activity as well. You have to be in a school and observe children in order to complete this part of your portfolio. Right, so in part 1, you have now been in the classroom for a couple of days. You know a few of the children, you're getting to know them, you're getting to see what they can and can't do, you're becoming familiar, and you're going to decide on one of the learners that you would like to observe for this part of your portfolio. So you can speak to the teacher about it and let her give you a bit of understanding. Obviously, she knows her children very well. And pick a child who has some areas that need still to be developed, right? So that there's areas for development with this child. So they might experience some challenges or delays or just areas that are not well developed yet. Okay, so you'll choose one child that you're going to observe here. And you're going to simply complete the biographical information for this child. So here you are going to just give us their first name. Remember, this is about protecting their confidentiality. So we don't want to expose the learner, it's just their first name. Then you're going to give us an idea of age with their years and months, so we know exactly how old they are. You're going to give us an idea of their ethnicity, their home language that they speak, and background information, like their home circumstances, are their parents divorced, who does the child live with, and the teacher, your mentor teacher, will be able to help you with that information there. Right, part 2. Now we move on to the observation part. So you are going to observe the learner for 3 20-minute sessions. These 3 sessions are made up. You're going to have one 20-minute session that's your teacher guided, so your structured activity. You're going to have one session that's your child initiated, your free play activities. And then you're going to have one for your routine activities. Now, obviously, your routine activities are not taking the children for a toilet break is not going to make up a 20-minute session of observation. So you might have to observe a few different things within a day or over 2 days that make up this 20-minute session for routines that you need. All right. Okay, so now you are going to observe the learner. What does observing mean? So it means you are going to use your senses, you're going to watch, you're going to listen, you are going to look at what the child is doing within these 20-minute sessions. And you are going to take down notes about what the child says, how the child is acting, what the child does, how they're thinking, how they're feeling, their behavior that they're displaying. And you're going to make rough notes about everything that you hear and see within that session. Right. Now, it's important to be specific, but you're not going to make judgments. So you're not going to, for example, say, Sally has low muscle tone, or Sally has poor core strength. So you're not seeing that in front of you. What you are seeing is the fact that Sally can only sit up straight on the carpet for 2 minutes and then she lies down. So that is going to be your observation. So in your mind, you might be thinking, oh, gross motor skills, poor core strength, but you're not noting that down. That's not part of your observation. Your observation is exactly what the child is saying, what the child's doing. So you're going to say there, the child became very frustrated and did this and this to the other child. So we understand that it's a form of emotional development or emotional challenge, but we want to know what exactly you saw there. When I read those notes, they must be very clear and explicit. I must be able to understand exactly what you saw in that situation. So it's absolutely detailed. Right. Then you are going to, once you've done this part, you're going to take these rough notes and you are going to compare them against the domains of development. So now you're going to look at your physical, your moral, your social, your emotional, your cognitive, and you're going to see which domains do these different behaviors and things that have happened fit into. You'll find your observation schedule at the back of your study guide. So here you can see, here's an example, you've got moral development and you've got the strengths and the weaknesses. So now you're going to take those notes and you're going to split them. You're going to split them under the right domain, and if this is a strength and if this is a weakness, you're going to put it on either side of this observation schedule. All right. Now you are going to submit part 1 and part 2 to a portal on ECI, and this needs to be done by the 31st of July. I'm then going to read through all of this and I'm going to give you feedback. I'm going to say this is not enough information, or you've made a judgment here, and give you guidelines, because the next part relies on this section being done properly. All right, remember to keep your rough notes. Don't throw those away. Keep them. Then part 3 of your portfolio of section B, you are going to now plan and design an intervention. So you're going to look at those domains. You're going to see which domain needs the most support, development, which is showing the most challenges, and you're going to plan 2 activities for this domain. One's going to be an indoor activity. One is going to be an outdoor activity. Now, very important, guys, you are planning the activity. We are writing it down, but you are not having any child do this activity. So if you run out of time, you can even do this part after your teaching practice, but just remember then you won't have access to the resources in the school. So you're going to plan 2 activities. We want to know the aims of the intervention. We want you to include an introduction, a body, and a conclusion to your 2 activities. You're going to take photographs of your resources. We want actual photographs. No, nothing off Pinterest, nothing off the internet. These are actual things. So if you're setting up an obstacle course for gross motor development, you are taking photos of this obstacle course so that we can see. Write what resources you are going to use, if they're appropriate, etc. If you're going to use hula hoops, take a photo of them, set up how you are going to use them. Right? Then you are going to have 3 to 5 open-ended questions that you can pose to the learners throughout the activity. And then we also want to know what assessment opportunities there are within these 2 activities. And at the end, in a paragraph of 10 to 15 lines, you're going to motivate why you chose the specific domain to design the activity around. Right. Again, this is a plan. You are not, the child is not actually going to do this activity. Right, and then your final part is you're going to write a reflective report that's 2 pages long. So here you'll include your feelings, your experiences, successes, challenges, how you think this task contributed to your development as a grade art teacher, and anything else you'd like to add that's relevant there. Right, and then your final submission, part 1, 2, 3, 4, and your rough notes are all going to be submitted to a portal on ECI by the 1st of October this year. Right, so that is section B of your portfolio. Now let's get to any questions you guys might have. I see Ms. Kirsten has also joined us, so if you've got any teaching practice questions. I'm sure she'll be happy to give us some input there. Simon, have you got any questions?
Just checking here on YouTube, there is a slight delay in the feed, so a few extra seconds.
All right, no problem.
So Lynn, no questions or comments on YouTube. To our students and staff watching on Zoom, just a reminder, there are 3 different options. You can make use of the chat, in which you can post a question or a comment. There is the Q&A or question and answer feature, which allows you to post your questions or comments anonymously if you're feeling shy. Otherwise, if you'd like to be part of this session, you can use the raise hand button, and that will allow us to allow you to turn your microphone, and if you'd like to, your webcam on, and then you can interact with us in the session. So please feel free to make use of any of those 3 options. We've still got a few moments, so perhaps we should say good morning or good afternoon to Priya. Good afternoon, Priya.
Hello, everyone. I hope you all are doing well.
Yes,
Priya.
we're well. Good to see you and welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
It's my pleasure.
Priya, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
No, I'm just very happy to see that I've looked at the participant list, so I can see that most of our students are attending, so that's good. You know, they are showing interest and they're going to be engaging with the sessions going forward, so that's always pleasing to see.
Yes, fabulous. That's excellent. Okay, everybody, then I guess if you don't have any questions that you want to ask here, remember you can always post on ECI Messenger or send us messages or emails via DL support, arrange a callback. We're here for any support or questions you might have. So I hope this session assisted in your understanding of the content and part B of your portfolio. So thank you to everybody for attending and good luck for the remainder of the semester.